So, do these even count as part of a book collection? These are books none of you can really own. But you can have your own crazy book collection of little notebooks that you filled yourselves over the years. Let's see what we got here. Pocket notebook number 20. Jersey Fresh. Place, scene, a former natural cemetery where people are just put in the ground casketless and a tree is planted above them. Years later, a haunted forest where every tree has a body beneath it was planted for a loved one, dense, thick, full of vines. Okay. That could be a fun way to tell that, actually. Idea, creative nonfiction, all of evolution leading up to the birth of Darwin and then Darwin's life. Idea, a movie about claustrophobia shot entirely in close-ups and inserts. That's kind of Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice, a little bit. Certainly buried. Oh, that's a sticker from the album A Ghost is Born from Wilco. Oh, here's Notebook 3. I bet I looked at this when I was putting the hike script together because I think this is from when I was walking across the country. That's from Backpacker Magazine. I think I was 21. 46 now. Learn from this great device of Dostoevsky's in Natushka Nezvanova, page 73. She, Dostoevsky, tells what happened one important night, and she can't remember it well, making the reader wait to rush to respond with the forgotten but previously told details. And, 2, then she tries to piece together the night's events, the night, the violin, father, vaguely making the reader jump to say, that's my memory too. I know what really happened, making the reader an authority over the character, making the reader a participant. Learn from Fyodor's genius. Lots of ideas in here that were for that book that was a fictional multi-form work that I never finished, but wrote many parts of, called Another Book, Ferris Bueller's Return from Hell. The concept of God as a kind-hearted foreigner who can't speak a lick of the world's languages. He judges what he can from people's body language and the tone, timbre, and volume of their pleas. So he guesses as best he can, but he's not always sure what they... Idea, a single house lived in by a single family. Kids start reading up on law and discover they can rise in power through the family ranks. I actually wrote this one into like a piece of microfiction that got published in the Alibi a long time ago. They had like a short story contest. Actually, I'm not sure if that was one of the ones that got published, but I did write it. Oh, it is. I'll find that in the closet sometime. Oh, that is a funny dialogue bit. Solve that mystery. No, you didn't really. Josiah is the conscience of the novel. Oh, this is Dreams from 2018. But this was originally a register book on this long-distance trail. My younger sibling and I tried to start. Younger sister, then younger brother. But we wanted to create a winding trail that didn't really exist as a trail, but it went all over town. So you would really like see all of Albuquerque. It was called the Albuquerque Urban Trail. And we started blazing it even with turquoise paint on the west side of town, just here and there. We hid these registers, Tupperware containers that had information sheets and notebooks and pens. But yeah, the blazes got painted over as fast as we put them up. So, and I still think the trail's a cool idea, but it's and I kind of brought it into reality with my essay, book-length essay, June Reading a City. It's a secret trail guide to that. It follows the route of it, kind of. It's just streets. I guess apparently in 2018, I had a very emotional dream of crying while screaming at my dad that his generation has been ruining democracy on our planet. She sat and listened to quietly, realizing I was right. 2018. So not all these are old. That's only 7 years ago. Pocket Notebook 25. Most of these are from the early 2000s. Oh, this is probably from when I was living in the shed behind my parents' house. It's a really nice guest house. My mom was old and dying, and I was married, and we had a baby. June 9th, 2000 to September 2000. None of that information is current anymore. Idea, title, The Believers, or just Believers. I like this. A group of religious zealots learn the secrets of faith. Learn to literally move mountains. Imagine the Rocky Mountains moving toward D.C. relentlessly, crushing any town, city, freeway, weapon, army in its way. The believers take over the world, using mountains and rivers, changing their course, using all of nature as weapons. How do they cultivate such faith? Who is their leader? How can they be stopped? How to turn lead into gold, one letter at a time. This is really the kind of classic notebook model right here. Has a number on it, duct tape. Sometimes I duct tape the spine ahead of time, just knowing it would get beat up. The pouch the pen holder, place for cards, etc. This is an absolutely terrible idea. Start a 6-month campaign to find a missing person that doesn't exist. Posters, interviews, articles, billboards, lots of publicity, documents people's reactions, etc. Document the whole thing and edit it into a film. Yeah, but that, oh man, there's so many reasons you should never do this. Well, these are notes when I interviewed Carl Frisch, who owned Spoken Word Cycles in Socorro, but he had been a Lake Powell ranger, and he specialized in body recovery and wrote a dissertation on death on Lake Powell. Just like there's a book about death in the Grand Canyon. Like that's what that book there is all about. Over the Edge, Death in the Grand Canyon. What's going off about skinwalkers? Carl touched a skinwalker. Carl's wife picked up hitchhiker in the cut, commonplace for skinwalkers. Skinwalkers can take on human form and then change to coyotes. That took a turn. His Lake Powell dissertation was so interesting, and I have sections of it copied in a file still. Like the only canoeist who was just like me that died. They found one of his books floating in this lake. I did a 7-month canoe trip around the circumference of Lake Powell forever ago. And just an amazing part of the world with a lot of environmental controversy, etc. behind it. But lots of people die on Lake Powell. They die everywhere. I read one like that on Disneyland. It was an issue of Murder Can Be Fun, the zine, all about deaths at Disneyland. I mean, Disneyland has its own jail. There's a whole lot of stuff that they never want you to hear about. Well, it looks like I also have, during this time I was doing a lot of research. Oh, this was when I was first thinking, I'm going to write a book about my trip around Lake Powell. That was really my writing school for a few years. Just, writing this giant sprawling book that nobody wanted to read about a canoe trip. It was a day-by-day thing. I still think it was good. But I edited it all down into a chapter. Still a book-length chapter, and added parts and rewrote parts of my book. It's now called The Silence Underneath the Rain-Dawn Bridge. What else we got here? New Mexican horror story. What does that say? Notes for scary essay. This is a whole notebook. Wow. Yeah, wow. So yeah, I've got this essay that's going to be a chapter in book 2 of my book, Shadows of Clouds on the Mountains. Here's book 1's a cover element. Oh, you're so pretty. But I want to write a piece of nonfiction that's scary. I read something kind of like this. At least someone was attempting it. It didn't really scare me, but it's hard to do scary writing and scary short writing. You can't do jump scares. It's all about cultivating a fear of dread, a feeling of dread. And, But I had this really scary real life experience where I really thought a friend who I thought had gotten into some bad drugs was becoming really terrifying. It's a really interesting scene to write about because it's really uncertain throughout and you still have to be polite. There have been a couple of modern horror films that play with this and do this. Red Eye has some elements of that early on. New Mexican horror story. Well, that's not what it ended up being called. Noctilucent. It's not done yet. I've written it in thirds, and I've written the first 2 thirds. It has 3 sections. There's more and more to do. It's definitely challenged me as a writer, and I've been splitting it apart in that way. I think I was reading a lot of horror and taking notes, and I was making notes on the project as well. Make the reader feel it could happen to them. When I said Willow, 5 were missing. Yeah, this book really messed up my daughter Willow. She was too young to hear it, and it was about kidnapping, and it was set in Albuquerque, and where we live. She really wanted to hear it because her siblings were really into it. It's so suspenseful. Lois Duncan's this great writer of that sort. R.I.P. a friend. An internet friend, but still. We were, for years I had daily interactions with Lois Duncan. She was great. It was early days of Facebook when things were fun. That book messed up Willow and really gave her a kidnapping neurosis. One of the famous 5 books did the same thing to my son for a while. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. My daughter Sonora thought at some point I was like an evil being sent to torture her. She was like, why did he read this to me? But I didn't with Sonora's case, I didn't know that she was so traumatized by some of the things we read. And these are the sorts of things, look, am I reading Clive Barker to these kids? No. 5 on a Treasure Island. Well, that one's all fun and games, but then they get kidnapped in every other book. Hagen couldn't handle it. Now he's fearless. I wish he had a little more fear. This was, wow, very early 2000s, living in Provo, Utah, working in independent film. Wet Confetti was this great area punk band. That area has an amazing scene. Like Confetti, Player Piano, Birds of Paradise, my favorite. There were so many good ones in that scene. It was fun and kind of new wave influenced and just really, wow, what a scene. That was the first live music scene where I regularly went to a lot of local bands, you know. I guess this is how people were before phones and everything. Thursday at 8, Sam and Heidi, Stephen, Anita, Mandy, and John. Okay. Been in Las Cruces and Provo at the time, probably. Well, that might not be a good sign. How can two lives have so much drama in them and yet still be so boring? Becky, I ran into her at a post office a while ago. That was crazy. She recognized me right away. It was kind of a cool counterculture type on the edge of the Mormon subculture there. This may sound weird, but a Mormon roots with my family. So I was still like in that dumb stuff at the time. But I did end up writing something like this because my family had such a long, deep history in Mormonism. My chapter, the Book of Mikey, Another Testament of Mikey, in my memoir, in book one of my memoir, includes all my family history with the church. It's written as a book of scripture. Oh, crazy. I was a vegetarian at the time. There's a lot of these. I'm kind of regretting this project. There's a reason I put these in a box for years and years and barely looked at them. Oh, interesting. Hey. Oh, this is from when I put together my book, Towns of the Sandia Mountains, and interviewed a lot of locals for it. Mercy Chavez was a really interesting woman that lived in Carnuel and had all these stories of living in those mountain towns back in the day. But she also had really interesting stories of being poisoned as a worker for GTE Lankert in the 70s, and she was always trying to get me to write about that. Later on, I would take a real personal interest in that story when I would work in that same building when it was a school, Brown Mackie for-profit college. Read a book called Toxic Work, Women Workers at GTE Lankert. She was one of the women workers at GTE Lankert. It was the largest workplace poisoning ever. I still remember quotes she told me. I remember, in photos, still alive, almost all. Center for Southwest Research asked me to give them all my resources and notes from putting that book together a long time ago. I guess I should, one of these days I'll do that. It was cool that they asked. Pocket Notebook 24. Okay, Las Cruces. It's until May 2005. Must have been when our lease ended at that 505 West Griggs apartment. And I'm apartment C now. It was apartment C10 then, I guess. Then I was married. No, I'm not. I was young with my whole life ahead of me. Now, that's why I lost the 10. The man walked as if he had a hanger still on his shirt. Was hung up, his shoulders unnaturally high and stiff. Oh yeah, I'd make little observations and stuff, write it down, be like, I could use that somewhere. To think much more like a fiction writer than I've trained myself to think lately. I'm starting to realize that now. Still get ideas for things and so on. Sneezing on door handles, how's that an idea? So this book idea that I had back then is now the one unfinished chapter in book one that I need to work on. I was going to do a whole book about Soldatna. No, use this as an epigram for all or part of it. OA, that stands for Once Around. These were notes on the canoe book that I was working on at the time. And then notes on another book, is that the novel one? Add movie-like parts, singing 100 different songs, snippets of each, stops at end, chugs. Water, paddles on, think funny. A bizarre thing worth doing, pulling something you've never even seen before out of your pocket, a little mystery. Take the old script I wrote in high school and novelize it, clean it up, rewrite it. Mentioning only grays, whites, blacks in the black and white sections and lots of vivid color in the color parts. I think that got used. White cotton clouds spilling from a torn blanket sky. I bet that's in there. Albuquerque band I met on the airplane. Pink Flamingos. I've never heard of that band that I can remember. Crazy. What kind of dumb advice is that? Never use the word this without a noun. This is a noun, or can be. Jeff's copy of my book is at the Kinko's on Central. Oh, funny. Memoirs that give people a sense of time and place. Encyclopedia of an Ordinary Life. Man, I guess they've just always been me. These are like the exact same interests I would have 20 years later. This is kind of adding up to a very fragmentary, modular, antilinear picture of somebody. You like participating in competitive sports. Right. Notebook 16. They're fun. They're history. They're America. Is it wicked not for the you've last? What? There. I guess I was going to do a movie about my sister at some point. Mixing real and recreated footage. You know, that is how Airplane was made, and I don't think I knew that at the time. Take a very serious screenplay like Citizen Kane and film it as a comedy. Make it funny by tone, cast, art, music, etc. Oh yeah, I wanted to keep the screenplay intact, though. That was the idea. Dr. Strangelove kind of did that with an existing book, I think. Airplane and another movie have essentially the same story. Manic optimism. A lifetime of empty rooms, a lifetime of high ceilings, dust, and peering around corners. Okay. Where I live and work and die all day. Oh, this was when we were making Baptists at our barbecue. Ugh, my stupid life. 15. Don't get mad, bothered, frustrated, upset, and so on. Someone thinks you're wonderfully mysterious. Idea. A man finds a crashed UFO, researches and expands its technology, and uses it to become the most amazing thief ever. Hey, this one's kind of funny. Idea. A pre-law major and a film major team up to create false, unbreakable contracts, forcing major celebrities to appear in student films, using false witnesses and everything. Interesting, since I just wrote my book's introduction. Here's about a book made only of introductions. This is very like Italo Calvino. Had I read that yet? I think I had read In a Fauna, Winter's Night, a Traveler. Format. Man edits a book over and over until he despises it. Same me with Rusty Stories. That's this homeless guy whose book I typed up from scraps of paper into a document. Still unpublished, but yeah, we'll look at that sometime when we get to the filing cabinets. With each edit, he writes a new intro. Each intro is more disgusted, disenchanted, and negative. This book is only all of the introduction, placed back to back in chronological order from most enthusiastic to most horribly sickened. Last intro right when book gets big publishing deal, wildly enthusiastic once again. Through the intros, give the story of the absent book and tell the story of its road to being published. I really forgot I was going to write something about my sister, a movie. I did write an essay. The smell of smoke bombs. That is a good detail. This was definitely when working on the movie. I was production coordinator. Another Albuquerque Urban Trail Register. Oh. This is when I interviewed this local artist, Ernest Doty, who became a friend. He had done these dripping rainbows down the sides of buildings all over town, and it really galvanized the art movement when he got arrested, and galleries did fundraisers to get him bailed out and so on. He was posting his street art along with his studio art, and it was getting him in trouble. Flickr back in the day. Oh, he went to Monsanto? Hey, that's where I've been working and where I went. Forgot that. At one point, this was my son's Adventure Time notebook. My kids were really into drawing those characters for a while. Interrogation Society. Oh, that got dark. Oh, pretty good. Pretty good, Hagen. Nice. The animators said they made these characters real simple so that people could draw them. Nice. I'm glad. Hey, this is great, Hagen. You might want this. Do you know that this exists? I'm gonna open it to a page and like display it somewhere. He's really getting. Huh. Good job, Hagen. Today no, that wasn't me. Stephen Wright, that's great. Oh, here's a list of the Shakespeare I didn't own. This might not be too old. These are the paperbacks I do own, but still need. I do own, so the other ones are the ones I need. Maybe the ones on the right are the ones I needed. Let's see what we got here. I might leave this one out. Hagen might like to have that in his possession as like a keepsake of his youth. Or I'm going to put it in the wall art section and like frame it as a notebook. Adventure Time is great and should have more of a presence in my home. I put it on a level with like War and Peace. So thought out and elaborate and multi-directional. It's amazing. Pocket Notebook 35. Oh, that's like a sticker from a burrito, I remember. Yeah, this thing is real useful. This one got trashed. I wrote down Infinite Jest in 2666. I read that one. Still haven't got to that one. I remember this. It was before I was in grad school, and I feel like I was kind of thinking my way to some ideas that were really common when you're in grad school. Like this was like an idea I had for a braided essay. Where I'm like, I want to tie together these different topics in something personal. That totally existed. You speak French like a Texan. That's the sensitive title. Nap time at Jonestown. Hey, get this. Richard Hell and the Voidoids, Blank Generation. This is when I just had a couple of young kids. I was still married. I did like this idea, and I used this in a script. A treasure quest, but 2 stories are going on simultaneously. The people are trying to find this treasure, but the treasure is like an ancient virus, and it will kill everybody if they get it. They're overcoming these tremendous odds, and then they get it. Yeah, the people I sold that script to, this is horrifying. Look at this. They didn't like that it had a dark ending. In hindsight, I should have listened. Gotten it made. But also the director, producer got obsessed with Bigfoot and disappeared into the desert to try to catch Bigfoot. That's not a lie. He did later make a movie. I saw his name on one. It was called Sergeant Stubbs, and it was about a CGI dog. But it's such a bummer because we actually had like some cool talent lined up to work on that movie, and had done location scouting and begun casting. Alexis Young, this actress from a movie called Arachnia, had signed on, and the role was kind of written for her. 17. Line. I'm sick of people dying, and I'm sick of people. Okay, some of these ideas are good. Save for later. Sorry, I'm doing three videos. It looks like could end up being 4. Who knows? On the box of pocket notebooks that I have looked at, not yet looked at. And of course, I find bittersweet, painful things as I go through all these that remind me of my whole life and all my mistakes. That's great. Sweet and bitter, bitter and sweet. Prismo's a big head Todd and the Monsters fan.